Pwede ka mag-timekeeper. 15 minutes lang.
Sige, sir.
Okay, sige. We can start now.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Gialin and I'm with Cintilias, Bagalanon, and Cunyada. And today we will be discussing potential energy. So, here are the parts of our report. Introduction of potential energy, types of potential energy, chemical potential energy, elastic, gravitational, and the references. So potential energy is a stored energy that depends upon the relative position of a various parts of a system. So an object can store energy as the result of its position. So example, in the figure, a boy is holding a ball and able to store energy as the result of its position. So once the boy releases the ball in the ground, it's not potential energy anymore. It transforms into kinetic energy since kinetic energy by definition is the measure of work that an object does by virtue of its position. So another example, so a girl drawn a bow or kanang pana is able to store energy as the result also of its position. So for example, if ever wala na siya anang gibira niya ang pana, so dili na siya matawag nga nga kanang mo divert ang potential energy to kinetic kay naman siya force nga gi-exert kaning sa iyang pagbira. So the pana is able to store energy also by virtue of its position. So take note that potential energy may be converted into energy of motion called kinetic energy. So next slide. So there are various types of potential energy, but we will be discussing main types of potential energy, and my group mates will continue to discuss chemical potential energy, elastic, and gravitational energy.
So, thank you, Gia. Once again, sir, good afternoon. So, kaninga part is I'm going to discuss to you about the chemical potential energy. And keep in mind nga kani siya nga part is very complex. So that is why nag-focus lang mi sa basic concepts or the introductory part of the topic. So first, what is the chemical energy? Chemical potential energy is the energy that is stored in the chemical bonds in a substance. The bonds have the bonds have stored chemical potential energy, which is released when they are broken and the substance undergoes a chemical reaction. Now there are two types of chemical reaction. One is exothermic and the other is the endothermic reaction. So we can say that the reaction is exothermic when the chemical energy is released, and on the other hand, endothermic reaction is when the chemical energy is absorbed. So to fully understand the concept lang yun sa chemical potential energy, naatay example diri sa of chemical potential energy in our everyday life. So example sa wood, chemical energy sa wood. When wood is dry, mag-store siya og chemical energy. This chemical energy is released as the wood burn and is converted into heat or kaning thermal energy. Yes. So as a result of burning, the wood turns into completely new substance called ashes. Okay, so that's very understandable naman siguro, no? Then sunod is kaning gasoline in the car. So since gasoline kay ga-contain na siya og very large amount of chemical potential energy that is released when the gasoline is burned in a controlled way in the engine of the car. So kani guys, kaning once you step the acceleration bitaw sa mga sakyanan, kana da yung gasoline kay gina-release na siya sa oxygen sa engine, causing the car to do work or accelerate. So once you step the paddles nga acceleration sa car, man na siyang ma-accelerate na siya. It's because of the release of the gasoline on causing the car to do ay, and at the same time of the gasoline is converted to heat, making the car's engine very hot. So muna to siya guys. Sunod is kaning chemical energy sa food. Yes, sa food kay every food stores a chemical potential energy. This energy is released when the food is digested and the molecule of the food are broken down into smaller pieces. This will then serve as our source of energy to do work. So in order for us to do work is natay ginakuha nga chemical energy sa mga foods kay kung wala tay foods di pud ta makabuhat og mga work kay wa man tay gana. So chemical energy sa food is very important kay mao magini siya atong source of energy. So remember that the energy change in a system occur as either heat or work or some combination of both that sometimes produce new substance. So katong ganina, katong example sa chemical energy sa wood, as you burn the wood, it will turn into completely new substance called ashes. And it will also produce kaning light energy or thermal energy or heat energy nana. And remember guys nga energy can be changed from one another but it cannot be created nor destroyed. So mao na to siya guys ang pinaka basic na gud sa chemical potential energy. And yeah, mao na to. Sunod kay ang yes, elastic potential energy.
So, elastic potential energy is the energy stored as a result of applying a force to deform an elastic object. So, the deformation could involve compressing, stretching, or twisting. So, there are many objects that specifically store an elastic potential energy. So, its example is coil, coil spring, then archer's stretch bow, or rubber band. So, according to Hooke's law, the force applied is directly proportional to the amount of stretch. So in other words, force required to stretch the spring is directly proportional to its displacement. So it is given by its formula F is equals to Kx, wherein K is the spring constant and X is the displacement. So here is also the elastic potential energy formula of the spring stretch. So potential energy is equals to 1/2 times kx squared. So here are the example problem. The vertical spring is linked with a load of mass 5 kilogram, which is compressed by 10 centimeter. Find out the force constant of the spring. So the solution, given mass 5 kilograms, so the distance is 10 centimeter. So the used formula is the formula of force. So 5 kilogram times the acceleration 9.8 meter per second squared. So the answer is 49 newtons. So the force in the stretch spring is F is equals to K times X. So the force constant is given by na-rearrange lang ang formula. So the 49 Newton divided by 10, which is the na-compress or the distance, then the answer would be 4.9 Newton per meter.
Okay, so good afternoon once again. Sorry for the background noise. Okay. So, gravitational potential energy is the potential energy associated with gravitational force, such as elevating objects against the Earth's gravity. So, as you can see, may mga pictures na shows in yung screen. So, the picture shows a ball on the ground as shown in the first picture. And now we can lift the ball off the ground and place it into a shelf like the second picture. And in order to do this, mag-exert taog or mag-use of chemical energy stored in our muscles. Wait lang. Sorry. So, the third picture, in order to do this, mag-exert ta og chemical energy na stored sa atong muscle and ma-change na ni siya into gravitational potential energy nga naa na sa ball. And then, so the ball now has a store of gravitational potential energy as shown in the third picture. So the ball, for the fourth picture, if the person allowed the ball to fall off back into the ground, then the store of gravitational potential energy is now changed into other forms of energy, such as kinetic energy. So now the ball has no gravitational potential energy as shown in the last picture. Next slide, please. So GPE is a measure of energy. So the result of the calculation will be value of joules or the symbol J. And it depends on two key factors, mass and height. More massive objects, greater gravitational energy, and the higher the object elevated, the greater the potential energy. So these relationships are expressed by the following equations. So A is gravitational potential energy is equals to M times G times H. So M is for the mass of the object, in kilogram, and H is for the height of an object in meter, and G is the constant gravitational field strength, which is 9.8 Newton per kilogram on Earth, or the acceleration of gravity. So as you can see, sa letter B, na siya triangle for the solutions kay we come up to this nga nag-provide ni because uban word problems na dili per me given dili per me gapangitaan ng potential energy or gravitational potential energy. So masabtan naman siguro kay given na siya sa screen. So for example, suppose a basketball has a mass of 2.2 kilogram and it falls off a window ledge to the ground 50 meters beneath. Calculate the gravitational potential energy of the ball when it arrives beneath. So step 1, provide the given, which is obviously ang mass is 2.2 kilogram, ang height is 50 meter, and gravitational field strength, is 9.8 meter per second squared. So now step 2, putting values in the formula. So now we will have 1,078 kilogram meter squared per second squared. And as you can see, same siya og unit for kinetic energy, and then you convert lang dayon siya into joules. So the final answer is 1,078 joules. So here is our reference, and thank you for listening. That's all.
Okay. Any questions from the report? Do you have another example for the elastic potential energy, Gia?
Amo nang nabutang sa kuan sir sa quiz. Among other example.
Okay. Can we go back to your slide for your elastic potential energy? Alam ko i-emphasize na concept sa inyong formula. Atong Hooke's law, you mentioned about Hooke's law. Okay, this one, according to Hooke's law, the force applied is directly proportional to the amount of stretch. So I mean to say, you can either stretch or compress a spring, no? Pero maura na gihapon, either compress or you stretch a spring, or you compress a spring, that's the same thing. The only concept there is that in doing so, it is not the spring that compresses its own self, no? Rather, the force coming is outside. It is an outside force, that makes the spring compressed or stretch. So, napanis siya ay negative ang formula, no? So, F equals to negative Kx. The negative simply implies that the force used to compress or stretch the spring is an outside or an external force. The spring does not compress or stretch itself. But when you come to the elastic potential energy, you simply square your displacement, no? So when you say displacement, either you compress or you stretch, i-square lang man ninyo. So maski negative pa ng inyong x, so example like this nag-compress mo, so you interpret that as negative x. But still, pag square ninyo ana, it becomes a positive output. So again, there is no negative potential energy sa elastic potential, no? Please take note. Sa question class, klaro ba to siya?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, basin man kung makatagbo mo og libro, na dito sa libro is negative kx. So, ako lang ging na lang tamudaan unsay pasabot ana, no? Okay, so can we go to the chemical potential energy? So remember that the food that we eat, even gasoline, no? Kabantay mo sa sakyanan, conventional na ito nga gamit is fuel, fossil fuels. So I hope some of you would be interested to do some research on conventional and renewable energy resources. So far, ang ato ang ginagamit is gasoline, no? Diesel, fossil fuels. We call them fossil fuels because they came from the prehistoric living organisms before, no? Millions of years ago, no? Until na ano siya, nahimo siyang crude oil, no? So unsa may nakamahalan ng gasolina? Mamahal siya kay agi pa mo na sa process, no? I-process pa ng crude oil and then until ma-refine na siya maayo mahimong gasoline. So kinsa sa inyo ha ang dunay sakyanan sa balay, sa inyo ha? Doon na ba mo motorcycle, doon na ba mo car like si Gia, murag na niyo siguro sila Mitsubishi Adventure.
Wala, sir.
Then si Godwin, basig na ni sila Toyota Hilux.
Multicab, sir, multicab.
Multicab, no? Pila ba ang tubil sa multicab, Godwin? Pila na kalitro ang full tank sa multicab?
Wala na ba kay idea, sir? Si Papa ra mag-drive sa mo.
But you own the multicab.
Yes, sir.
Okay kayo. Ang kasagaran kung mo may bawaan na multicab drivers, mag-arkila na sila multicab inadlawan. Naitag 300, naitag 350. So kung tugihan ka nga pagka-driver, the entire day, the whole day nimo pamasada, makita ba pagkadako, no? Gadwin?
Yes, sir. Labi na yung mga atong life by face to face dagko gyud ang halin sa
Especially katong pre-pandemic pa, no? Kay sa isa ka sitting, anang full sitting kompleto, pag napulo man na Gadwin, no? 5-5.
88,
5-5.
sir, 88.
Anay 8-8.
Yes, sir.
Katong tag-as na. Pero katong medyo mubo nga multi-cap, 5-5 raman na, no? Okay, so pero sa sige nato og tinubil ana, pila ba ka kilometers ang daganon anang imong full tank, no? Depende po na siya sa efficiency sa imong makina. So kung kanang imong multi-cab dugay na kaayo, di ba kasagara ano is surplus man na gikan pa ng Japan uban ana, no? Suzuki, di ba? Tapos ingnon na ka sa kumpanya nga you are the first owner here in the Philippines. Pero wala ka kabalo, pila na gigamit dito sa Japan. Di ba, Gadwin?
Yes, sir.
So, surplus man na siya. So, speaking of efficiency, engine efficiency, anang imong isa ka litro nga gasolina, pila ba'y madagan ana ka kilometro? So, that muna itong gitawag og mileage. So, kaning mga brand new nga mga makina, tag-as na sila mileage. Kumpara nimo sa mga daan na sikanhan na, kabalo ka napulo ka ng tag-iya. So kana matingala ka na lang na ang imong isa ka litro gamay na lay daganon ana, no? Low mileage. Now, pero maura gihapon nga pollutants ang ano, mas grabe pa gani class, no? Speaking of old engines nga dili na kay efficient, the more na sila magbuga o pollution. Di ba, Gia?
Yes, sir.
So siguro, somebody of you, amot lang class, no, kay kamora ba ang first batch sa invite sa program sa BSU, somebody of you might take up that as your thesis problem. Kung interesado mo, undergyapon na sa air pollution, study mo, pollution studies, even until now, no? So, kung kinsa interesado niyo ana, studihan nato ang pollution, like air pollution, pangita mo og kanang latest nga mga studies as your related study or literature. That's why sa inyong technical paper, gina-practice sa tamudaan na how to make literature review for chapter 2. No? I hope nasabtan ninyo na class, no? This is ano ninyo, partners yung training. So something like that. Anyway, that's a basic concept of chemical potential energy. It is called chemical potential energy kay once nimo siyang sunugon or undergo combustion, ay ra nimo mapuslan ang stored energy niya. Diba? Just like the food that we eat, especially kanang kusog ka mukaon og pan, sa pa ba ng mga go foods. So, i-release na sa imong body when imo na siya ma-metabolize. No? Okay, so what else? So again, there are many forms of energy. So energy can never be destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. So that is the conservation of total mechanical energy. So one of the cornerstone principles in physics. Okay? Okay, so group 1, ang sa inyong i-quiz ninyo ani after? Puro ba ni problem set? Problems, problem solving? Gia?
Na ay problem solving og ko-answer ka ng multiple choice.
Okay, sige. So 20 items naman, no?
Yes, sir.
How about group 2?